Oh, this was no boating accident. I haven't done a SLUGFEST in a really long time, not because I haven't wanted to. I have, you know, lists of them that I want to do. And this one has been on the top of the list for a really long time. There aren't too many things that qualify better for a SLUGFEST than 10mm. And I've got two of the finest 10mm handguns out here today to do this SLUGFEST with. I'm just going to warm up for starters here at my steel target that's about, I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 15 yards down range. Start out with the Kimber, beautiful 1911 stainless target 2. Nice. That was the Kimber magazine. Kimber gives you only one magazine. Come on, guys. And I have known some people to have problems with theirs, but I will say I've been lucky and I haven't had any problem with mine. But I have a couple other magazines. This is a Wilson Combat magazine. I also, in my pouch somewhere, I have a Chip McCormick as well. I have been lucky. Have not had malfunctions with any of the mags for the Kimber. Since the last time you saw this gun out, I probably have added the grips, the G10 grips, and I have added the Talon front strap. You're like, what? Yeah, Talon front strap for 1911. If you've got a smooth front strap on yours, man, I'm telling you, it rocks. And on this gun, it's actually got a nice fashion statement too. I'll show it to you closer in a minute. Nice. Another Wilson Combat mag. I think they're identical. Another big advantage for the Kimber is I'm able to get 9 rounds in each of the Kimber magazines, and the Sig Sauer can only get 8, and I only have 2 magazines. So, half as many magazines and I can't get as many rounds in them. Might as well empty them up. This is the Chip McCormick magazine. For those of you taking notes. Uh-oh. And right off the bat, didn't go all the way into battery. Ah, interesting. All right. So, did I speak too soon? There's a failure to go into battery. All right, got him in. I will say, having said I didn't have any problems with these magazines, I've had problems with Chip McCormick magazines in 45 ACP 1911s, probably more than any other kind. And take that for whatever it's worth. Wow, you see how that doesn't want to go into battery? See that? See that slide skip? Trust me, the gun's nice and wet. Lubed her up last night. Okay. Questionable magazine. Okay, up next. Unfortunately, I only have one holster on my belt, and it fits the 1911. So, the Sig Sauer P220 Elite 10mm 5-inch. And since this is a double action, single action, I'm going to start out double action. Again, just sort of warming myself up here to both of these guns. Haven't shot either one of them in a while. All right. Well, okay, I think I've shaken off the rust. I feel a little bit warmed up with both of these guns. Let's see if I can make some groups. Okay, let's see how I can do some groups offhand with both of these guns. I've got two targets down range, same distance, about the same height, side by side. Back to back, they faced each other. Never mind. So, got my orange dot on each one. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Kimber again. And just to even the playing fields, I'm going to use just 2 magazines for the Kimber, both the Wilson Combat. They seem to be the most reliable. And I'm loading them only to 8 rounds each. So that way both guns will be loaded to 8 rounds, 2 bags, and then I can count without taking my shoes off, hopefully. Okay, so I didn't walk the distance off. The thing I'm standing next to says 15 yards, but my targets are not exactly at the berm, so I'm guessing I'm probably about maybe 13 yards. Okay, so first off, Kimber, stainless, target 2, going to the target on the left. By the way, I'm shooting Sig Sauer Elite Performance. Man, I love 10mm. .10mm is just, I don't know, to me 10mm is like the perfect handgun caliber. The power, the accuracy, and quite honestly, the controllability and all that. You know, I mean, you can play the game of how big a caliber and how big a bang and how, you know, strong a recoil can we create, and those are fun games to play. But when it comes to just realistically serious, good ammo and a great caliber for a handgun, man, 10mm all day long. Okay, still Kimber, still on the left. And still Sig Sauer ammo provided to me by Sig. Thank you, Sig. The target sights on this Kimber are nice. They're all blacked out. But man, if you're looking at the front sight like you're supposed to, you can just see every serration. And if you can hold it still like you're supposed to, this thing will just eat a hole in the middle of your target. Okay, moving on now to the Sig P220 Elite 5-inch. These guns are so identical in so many ways. I'll talk about that in a lot more detail, you know, at the quietness of the workbench. But there's only about less than 5 ounces between them, the Sig being the heavier of the two. Nice. Shooting the same ammo, Sig Sauer. Wow, nice. So it looks like, from this distance, it looks like the Sig's eating a hole more to the 9 o'clock and the Kimber ate a hole more to the 12 or 1 o'clock. I don't know. Let's go down range, take a closer look. All right, let's go check these targets out, see how I did. All right, so first the Kimber. Good job, nice group. I will not complain about that. Again, that's me offhand at about 13 yards. So, whole lots of room for error there. And now, the Sig P220, same distance, and about the same type of group. So, man, I don't think I even need to try and measure those. So, very, very comparable. Again, the Sig, I seem to concentrate my hits over here around the 9 o'clock. And on the Kimber, I was concentrating more of my hits up around the 12, 1 o'clock area. But that aside, gotta call that a draw. Okay, let's talk about the specs. Just the cold numbers on both of these guns. We'll see that they are very, very similar with, you know, some obvious differences and some not so obvious differences. And I'm going to introduce for you today in this video, for the very first time, a new specification, a new measurement that I call the just an opinion grip size. And I'll explain that a little bit when we get to it. Okay, so starting out, obviously both of these guns are chambered in 10mm, and they're both available chambered in other calibers as well, most commonly in 45 ACP in both cases. The barrel length for both of these guns is 5 inches even. The overall length is 8.9 inches for the Sig, and I measured about approximately 8.8 inches for the Kimber. If you look up the number on Kimber's website, they say 9.9, which is way wrong. So I measured it to be what I estimate as, again, 8.8, so maybe just a hair shorter overall length than the Sig. The height of the Sig is 5.5 inches, the height of the Kimber 5.25, so 1/4 of an inch shorter is the Kimber. The weight, talked about that a little bit at the range, with an empty mag, 44.2 ounces, the Sig Sauer. The Kimber, 38 ounces even. The grips are both G10, but the Kimber doesn't come with G10. I added the G10 and I added the Talon. The sights on the P220 are the Sig Light night sights. That's a 3-dot combat style sight that does contain tritium and do illuminate at night. The sights on the Kimber are adjustable. Kimber just lists them as Kimber sights, so I don't know if someone makes them for them, but if they do, they brand them as their own. So they are blacked out, black front, black rear, and that's a nice target gun type configuration if you like that, but it's a little slower to acquire, obviously, when you push out quickly to a target. Action type. Here's probably one of the most significant differences, if not the only real main difference between these two guns. The Sig Sauer obviously is a double action, single action. It is a hammer fired gun. It does have a decocker so that once you charge the pistol you can decock it, lower the hammer and start out double action, or you can let the hammer stay back, or you can manually cock it and start out single action. So you have your choice. Every subsequent round after that, of course, is going to be single action unless you decock it. The Kimber, obviously, because it's a 1911, is a single action only hammer fired gun, and that is the only choice. It does have a manual thumb safety, as we expect on a 1911, where the Sig does not have any external manual safety. The finish for the Sig is a nitron on the slide. It's sort of that two-tone look. It's nitron over stainless steel, and stainless steel is the construction of the frame. The finish on the Kimber is all stainless everywhere. It is a nice satin finish, very beautiful pistol. Capacity. This one's kind of an oddball. I'm listing 9 for the Kimber because I can routinely get 9 rounds in pretty much every magazine that I use, even the one that's in it, the stock magazine. But it's only listed as an 8+1 by Kimber, so they're not necessarily guaranteeing or expecting that you're going to get 9 rounds in, but I'm able to get 9 rounds in, so I'm giving them credit for that. Capacity is 8 rounds for the Sig, and you cannot get any more than that in it. So tiny, slight reality benefit for the Kimber, although the specs listed by the manufacturers call them even. The thickness of the pistols, the Sig is 1.5 inch and a half exactly in thickness. The Kimber, again being a 1911, which is flat as a flounder, is 1.35 inches. Another area where they do certainly differ, and this is subject to, you know, your mileage may vary depending on what kind of deal you get and how much time's gone by between the time I make this video and the time you watch it. But right now, MSRP for the P220 in this configuration is $1,422, and that is if you can find one. These are really, really hard to find. The Kimber, $1,192 is the MSRP. Both of them, if you do find them, you should be able to get them a little cheaper than that, but not a whole lot because these are both reputable brands and they're not going to be in the bargain bin very often. Okay, I did another measurement on my own that I've done on a lot of reviews, especially comparisons that a lot of people like, and I like doing them because I think it's a meaningful number, and that is the trigger reach. So the trigger reach is the distance from the very face of the trigger here back to the apex of the grip tang, and by apex I mean the place, the most inward spot in the curve of that grip tang. So the shortest distance that you can measure from the face of the trigger back to the grip is where I'm measuring. And for the Sig, of course, we have the complexity that it is a two-mode gun. You can fire double action or you can fire single action, and the trigger is in a greatly different position in both. So in double action, it's 2.971 inches from here to here. In single action, you can watch the trigger move back if I cock the hammer, that in this position it's 2.648. The Kimber, of course, the trigger is always in the same position, and the distance is 2.795. Now here's where I talked about there being a new measurement called the Just an Opinion grip size, and I've given some thought to this, and it may not make sense to you, and I hope it does. I wanted to come up with some way to quantify the grip size of a handgun so that that number over time, with enough data points and people comparing it to numbers that they understand, can make some sense. We know the grip distance from here to here and from here to here, but, and this is a perfect example, I've got a Sig P220 laying here. Well, if I get a Sig P227, that distance is very likely to be the same, but the P227 is a much rounder, fatter gun, and so it takes more hand to wrap around it. And so that number, while it has some meaning, it doesn't really measure the grip size. So I kind of struggled with, man, there's got to be a better way. I thought about using a soft tape measure, like they use to measure you for, like a tailor would use to measure your waist or something, cloth tape. There's too many variables there as well. So here's what I've done. I've come up with a number that is fairly simple and fairly easy to do, because I think that is part of what will make it valuable. It is simply taking the trigger reach that I've measured, right, and then multiplying it by the thickness of the grip. So that number should give us some meaningful value after a while, because after all, the distance from the trigger to the web of your hand is going to be increased by the thickness of the gun or decreased by the thinness of a gun, right? So the more you have to wrap around, the less finger you're going to have left when you get out by the trigger, basically, right? So that's what I'm trying to represent here. So that number for the Sig is 3.15. And it's not inches, pounds, kilometers, or fathoms. That number doesn't represent anything other than this new dimension that is called the just in opinion grip size, and the value for that for the Sig is 3.15. For the Kimber, it is 3.49. I was actually a little bit surprised by that too, because when you think 1911, you think, wow, that's flat. And I will also add the caveat that I did the grip size measurement on the Sig in single action mode. So it would be apples to apples, single action and single action. And you can see the difference in the trigger. If I were to take that same number in double action for the Sig, I have no doubt it would be a larger value than 3.49. But to make the numbers meaningful, 3.49 is the just an opinion grip size value for the Kimber, and 3.15 is the just an opinion value grip size for the Sig. And I hope over time, as I do more of these, and finally I've done a gun that you own, and you can hold it and go, okay, I know what that number means now. So if it's a bigger number, it's going to be less reach for me, or if it's a smaller number, it's going to be less reach, and if it's a bigger number, it's going to be more reach. I hope that made some sense. I hope that wasn't just completely ridiculous. Let me know what you think. Pay attention to those gun safety rules provided to us here by the Patriot Patch Company. And thanks for watching. Okay, I want to make sure you guys get your money's worth, so I'm going to shoot same target, same holes. I'm not going to paste it up. You can see the hits or the misses or whatever. Start again with the Kimber. I'm going to shoot 8 rounds of Remington UMC 10mm, because it's a 10mm gun, so, All right, let's see how we do with the Remington, upper middle class. Target on the left. Oh, that's better. Man, my glasses were starting to fog up. Now they're clear. I can see clearly now. That was the Remington. Now, 5 rounds of 6 Hour Elite Performance V Crown. This is serious ammo. Also provided by Sig. Well, you can definitely feel the difference in the load between the Remington and this defensive load. Okay, the Sig P220, same game plan, same ammo, 8 rounds of Remington. And also 5 rounds Sig V Crown. Sure, you can see the difference in muzzle lift. Nice. Okay. Take a closer look at those. Doesn't look like too much changed here for the Kimber. May have put a few more rounds outside the orange. But consistently, and I will take consistently all day long. And for the Sig, same thing. Dropped a couple down here low. But for the most part, concentrating in the same area. So once again, I will happily take consistency all the time. Okay, I do want to feature the Kimber by itself here for a moment because I've changed some things since I bought this gun. The gun came with that hard rubber grip panel, which is a good grip, but it didn't inspire me too much in terms of the the looks of it. So I went to this gray, this two-tone gray G10, which I think is a really, really nice grip on this all stainless steel gun. And then the folks at Talon gave me this front strap granulate Talon grip that I put on the front, because this is actually a smooth front strap on this gun, which was one of the things I didn't really care for about it. But with this Talon on it, man, that's like 30 lines per inch checkering, and it just happens to be aesthetically pleasing. It matches really nice with that gray grip and that stainless steel. So I just wanted to show that off for a moment. I don't think I've really shown that since I've done that. Okay, be a little bit more formal. 25 yards, I'm going to rest each one of these pistols and put 5 yards into a target we can measure with the Sig Sauer Elite Performance V Crown. This is awesome ammo. Okay, let's take a look at these trigger pulls. Do some quick measurements on them. I'll just do maybe 3 pulls, take an average. First up, the Kimber. Okay, and the average 4 pounds, 12.2 ounces. All right, now let's try the Sig. Okay, the average of 3 from the Sig, 4 pounds, 14.5 ounces. Just a tad heavier, but boy, not by much. So yet again, we see how similar these two guns are. Okay, Sig Sauer now. P220 Elite 5-inch, 25 yards with Sig Sauer Elite Performance. Alrighty. Check it out. Alright, let's take a look at the results of 25 yards, starting with the Kimber. There's our group. So it was consistently a little bit high, which is no problem. And not a bad group. All 5 rounds measured a maximum of 2.337 inches. And the best 3, which is this group of 3 right here, 1.315. Take a look at the Sig. In the Sig, you can see, number one, you can see that it was a little closer to point of aim, the entire group. But you can also see pretty quickly that it is a much nicer group. The 5 rounds in total, greatest distance was 1.303. And the best 3 made 1 hole right there, that clover leaf, and that's a small clover leaf, 0.343 inches. So same ammo, same distance, same shooter, same day, and all of that. The Sig P220 bested the Kimber in accuracy. Okay, wrapping it up from the range with the comparison, the SLUGFEST in 10mm between the Kimber Stainless Target 2 1911 in 10mm and the Sig Sauer P220 Elite 5-inch. I can't remember the last time I've compared two guns that were in so many ways so different. The designs are so different fundamentally, and you know, the approach to both guns is so different, but they also have a lot of things in common. Most importantly, the sizes, they're the same length barrel. They're both single stacks. Their weight is very, very similar. They're both stainless steel, you know, so they got a lot going for them in comparison there. But at the same time, their performance is really what I've noticed to be the most similar. I would have a really hard time, based on what I've seen today and based on what I've seen in the past when I've shot them separately, I would have a really hard time picking a winner between these two guns. This certainly is a situation where it comes down to personal preference. You either want a 1911 or you want a double action, single action, and whichever one you prefer, I can't imagine you can do any better than these two pistols. But I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking, hey, come on, how can you call this a 10mm SLUGFEST and you're shooting all this wimpy stuff, you know, that you can buy at your local Walmart and all that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up with two pretty hot loads by anybody's standards. This is buffalo bore jacketed hollow point. 180 grain, rated at 1350 feet per second. Through the Kimber. You do feel the difference. And last, but I promise you not least, Underwood, 135 grain jacketed hollow point, traveling at 1600 feet per second. When the glass breaks at 2 a.m., this is what you want in your gun. Uh-oh. Man, very last round. Did not feed. There we go. I'm sorry you had to see that. And now with the P220 Elite 10mm, same thing, starting with the buffalo bore. This is where that extra 4.5, 5 ounces really is going to pay off. Nice. And the Underwood. Also a nice way to test that target.